I'm going to fool you. Everybody kids me about I think I could be a poster child for the NRA. But anyway, I noticed that we have several guys here in the Army and Navy. I don't know what all of you have been, but I'd like to ask one question first. Has any of you served in the airborne? I'd love if you've been in the airborne. Okay, good. Well, that's the thing that I was in the paratroopers and served the airborne. That was the one thing I thought I would talk about, just give you a little brief introduction into the training.
That'll help me rub it in on my brothers.
Oh, okay. Did you take your jump school at Benning or?
I went to Benning Jump School. Then.
Okay. Well, that'll be good. I'll bounce some questions off of you then. Okay. Well, first I want to say that I'm no war hero. I did serve in the airborne, but I was stateside most of the time, and I didn't see combat. So I want you to know that. I don't want to give you the impression that I'm a big hero, so I'm not. I'm just a common guy. Did quite a bit of extensive training, but that was it.
You're still a hero.
Yes, thank you. I was drafted during the Korean conflict. I was drafted in February of '52, and I took my basic in Fort Riley, Kansas. But during about halfway through the program, they came around and asked us, would you like to sign up for the airborne? Well, some of us dumb guys, I don't know, we signed up. Well, we took a lot of razzing about that because there'd be something hard come up and they'd say, wait till you get in the airborne, you'll find out it's just a lot tougher than that. So anyway, we finished basic at Fort Riley, Kansas. Then we shipped out to Fort Benning, Georgia. Now, have you ever been in Georgia in August? That's when we took our training. It was August of.
Nice and cool.
It was brutal. It was brutal. But when my dad found out, I didn't hear this straight from him, but when he found out that I'd signed up for the airborne, he didn't tell me, but a roundabout way, he said, didn't know he raised any crazy kids, he said. So anyway, we started out at the airborne school, and I think we had roughly 700 guys that we started out with in our class. And the thing about the airborne, run. All they wanted to do was run. They were the runningest people. If you went to the mess hall, you better be running. Or if you moved across the room, you better be running. Or just drop down and give me 10. You know, so we ran a lot. And incidentally, that's where we lost a lot of the guys. A lot of the guys couldn't handle it. We had a lot of PT and a lot of physical stuff, but the running was probably one of the hardest things that we did. One of the things that was a 34-foot tower. You remember the 34-foot tower? That was probably that's where you learned your body position, how to exit the aircraft. You head down, feet together, get a hold of that chute. But it wasn't that difficult, but it was scary. And we lost a lot of guys. It was like a theme ride, theme park, like probably Six Flags. You would coast down, you would jump, get your position, and you would jump and learn your position, but then you would drop so far and then you'd coast off on a cable, and it was actually fun, but we lost lots of guys. They just wouldn't handle that. The next, one of the other was the 250-foot towers that they had. They would pull you up on those, and your chute was already expanded. It had a ring around there, and you had to clip it on and all that. But they would pull you up, and it was 250 foot. You'd think that was pretty high, but it wasn't as scary actually as the 34. But they'd pull us up, and then they would drop us. You had 3 arms that you could drop. You couldn't drop the one because of the wind. Because if the wind was blowing, you'd blow you into the tower, and that's not good to get tangled in that tower 250 foot up with your parachute. So, well, but then, of course, the last week of the training was the jump week. That was what you'd planned all your planning, or all your training had been for. So you had your jump week the last week, and that was pretty exciting. One thing that I thought about, people would ask me, they said, were you scared? Well, if you aren't scared, you're not human. You gotta be a little scared. I'll admit, I wasn't probably as scared as I am now. But anyway, but one of the things that always kind of went through my mind, we jumped at about 1,000 to 1,200 feet was how high we jumped. And what I always thought in my head when I stand that door ready to go, I thought you're only 8 seconds from meeting Jesus. If that chute didn't open, you fell you fell a few feet, but then the chute opened, and when that chute opened, I don't know what kind. We had the old what they call the T7s, and they just exploded when they opened. You were dropping pretty fast, and it just catch you and just grabbed you almost momentarily. But it was a good feeling. You get riser burns, and you were strapped in all through your body here, but it was a good feeling. And the ride down was fun, actually, on that. But now, like I told you, I didn't do any combat jumps, but the combat jumps, they only dropped those at about 300 feet. And the reason for that was they just wanted your feet to hit the ground, and your chute open and your feet hit the ground. You made such a beautiful target up there just floating along if they dropped you very high. So that's one of the reasons that does that. So after airborne school, I was sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I spent a lot of my time at Fort Campbell with the 11th Airborne Division there. Now, the 11th, it was, I don't know, I guess you'd say elite, little elite. We kind of thought they all were kind of elite, but the 82nd, it was the granddaddy of them. It was out in Fayetteville, the granddaddy of them. It was the master probably of all of them to get sent to. One thing I notice some people get confused on is when you say you're in the airborne, they get it confused with the Air Force. Now, we're no part of the Air Force. We're strictly just a division of the Army. And all the Air Force does is get us up there and drop us. And they wonder why you want to jump out of a good airplane. You know, why not go back and ride it down? You know? So, but we had a couple of interesting things that we did in the service there. We had maneuvers in Alaska, and now we went from, I just told you, we went from Georgia in August to Alaska in December. Now let me tell you, you got a little contrast there. We did get to see a lot in Alaska. We got around a lot. We marched around Mount McKinley. We saw Anchorage, and in fact, we made one jump at Fairbanks. I think it was 30 below the morning we jumped. but you still got to hold that reserve. You had a handle that you get that reserve. You always had that reserve ready. So anyway, we jumped to Fairbanks. Let's see. I think we were up there something like 2 months. We went up in October, came back in possibly, I think, about December. And one of the things that was, we were outside the whole time. The only time we got to go inside was, I think we got to go in one time and take a shower in those 2 months. Now, don't ask me how we smelled, but maybe in that cold weather you don't sweat that much, but still, I don't know how we cleaned up, but we didn't. But we had squad tents that we could set up, and we used them part-time. We could set up squad tents, and they were pretty nice, but we moved so much that we didn't use the squad tents a whole lot. But most of the time, we just roll our sleeping bags out on the ground, out on the snow. Now let me tell you, those were good sleeping bags. They were, I don't know, they were some kind of down special. They had to be special. But one of the disadvantage was that they were so bulky, but they couldn't make them any other way, but you had to carry them because they were your life support. You just couldn't do without them. They did have us on a high calorie, they had us on a 5,000 calorie diet due to the cold weather. Now, I think it wasn't home cooked mom's chow. It was what we called them was sea rations. I think you call them MREs now, don't you? I think that was the old term, was sea rations back then. Well, anyway, but now one other thing that I did that I probably was the most interesting thing, and maybe the craziest thing, was I got to go see an atomic bomb explosion, a nuclear explosion out at in the Nevada desert. We were about 70 miles north of Las Vegas is where we went for that. And incidentally, we did get to go into Las Vegas, I think, one time, and that was, let's see, that was 65 years ago. So do you think it's changed a lot now? How many of you guys, I've never been to Las Vegas since, but I'll bet it's something different now, isn't it, than but anyway, back to the atomic bomb blast. We were at this time. This was '53. We were the closest that anybody had ever been to the explosion at that time. Now they may have done differently later on. They may have, but we were 3,000 yards from ground zero. And that's about a mile, to put it in your guys' perspective, that's about 1.5 miles to 1.75 miles. So that's how close we were. But we were in trenches, probably chest deep, that we were in trenches. But what they told us, they said, don't, 10 minutes before it goes off, there's no way to stop it. So 0 minus 10 is that's it. They said, don't hope some sergeant says, I don't have my men in the trenches there, so it's too late. They said it's going to go off now after 10 minutes. But what we had to do was we had to wait for that shock wave to come over us. And we kneeled down in the trenches. Like I said, the trenches were about chest high, so we kneeled down in the trenches and waited for the shock wave to come over us, because it would take your head off if you didn't. But we could raise up after the shock wave went over us. We could raise up and see the mushroom cloud, and the mushroom cloud was already about 1 mile high. But the most interesting thing, or the most unusual thing that I found out was when this bomb went off, the atmosphere, it just turned a purple. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The atmosphere just turned purple. I don't know how long it stayed that way. And you could look at your hands and you could see the bones in them. So can you imagine the radiation, I'm assuming, that we were absorbing. And incidentally, this was all new to them at the time, because see, the bomb was developed, I believe, 45, wasn't it? And see, this was 53, so possibly, see, it was just all new, and they were just, they were making guinea pigs. And as I say, when I was asked to go to this, I don't know if I was asked or if I was told. I don't remember. I didn't know if it was an honor or if I was a guinea pig. But so I'm going to maybe count it an honor, whatever. But one of the things about that was that I was concerned, because what that radiation can do, a lot of you medical people, that your reproductive organs is, and I was always concerned that what the kids might be. But the Lord helped us. Keely and Brent, Keely and Michelle, both turned out fine. They were physically perfect, so that was a blessing. But I just can't imagine, by it being in its infancy like that how much radiation, because they really didn't understand that. They just come around with a Geiger counter and say, oh, you're okay, and I'll bet today they'd probably have hazmat suits, probably before now, I don't know. But all we had was just our uniforms, is all we had on. And but even after we had the explosion, and as close as we'd been, they still marched us up a little closer to ground zero. We didn't go completely. I mean, that would have been totally stupid. I thought it was stupid to go as far as we did. But I just can't imagine how much radiation. But they were so new at it that I guess they really didn't understand what it was like. But like I said, that was 65 years ago, so I'm not going to start worrying about it now. So there's lots of you people here don't even remember that, I'm sure. But I just have a couple of incidental points. I'm just about done here. I guess when I got out of airborne school, the next step up is Ranger School. Now, I don't know if I could have gone to Ranger School or not, possibly, but I did try it, and I thought I'd gone far enough. Of course, the next step after Ranger School is the Green Beret. I knew that I couldn't qualify for that, but I think there's only 3%. You're getting up in SEAL territory then when you're talking about the Green Beret. But let's see, I do have a question here, just for the fun of it. I want to ask you, I mean, all of you are not as old as I am, I say, but do you remember the name of, this goes along with maybe this, the plane, the B-29 that dropped a bomb on Hiroshima? Ah, there's a guy down there. Enola Gay, there you go. And do you know, Mike, that you can see that out Air and Space in Washington. They've got it out there, they've got it all restored, which is quite interesting. And also you've got the Condor there, the one that France gave us, and it's there. Okay, let's see, I got just a couple more here, and I'm going to be done. These just little questions. As I said, I'm not a war hero, but Had one night jump. That was a little different because it's just like dropping in an inkwell. You cannot see in you hear somebody hit over here, whoop, oh, and somebody hit whoop over here. But I did get knocked out one time, but basically I did all right. And here's another little interesting thing that we had to jump at least every 3 months to hold our hazardous duty pay. You know what it was? $50 a month. Any takers? So we thought we were doing, I guess, pretty good. We got $50 a month extra for jumping. Altogether, I had 14 total, which isn't very many. Most of the guys are RA and either making a career of it. They probably got 100 jumps, but I did have 14, and I was proud of it. And anyway, that's about it. So I appreciate your concern here. Thank you.